You know, I like Arylic. I think they make some affordable hi-fi gear at reasonable prices and pretty good quality. And so when they sent me the LP10 to review, this is their newest music streamer, I said, sure, why not? And I really did want to love this streamer, and I wanted to give it a fair shake, which I think I did. However, hey, Bruce Naylor here. Welcome to Desktop Hi-Fi. On this channel, I review gear particularly geared for near-field listening, including powered speakers, passive speakers, small powered amplifiers, DACs, headphone amps and DAC combinations, music streamers, and other gear. Pretty much devoted to near-field listening or with headphones or earbuds. That's what my channel's all about. Streamers, I think, are very, very important if you're going to be doing a lot of desktop listening or near-field listening as well. Here's why. Simply put, you don't have to have a whole lot of gear. If you don't have a lot of space, you don't have a lot of gear, but you want to listen to your music, streaming is such an incredible value money-wise. I mean, what, 10, 12 bucks a month, something like that, and you have pretty much access to all the music that's out there for practical purposes. Also, you don't have to have like CD players or any of that stuff. You know, you can just get by with a good streamer, such as the Arylic LP10, a pair of powered speakers, and you are golden. You're in business. Listen to music to your heart's content. Let's jump into the unboxing. What do you get in the box? Well, you get a user manual. You get an RCA cable, a 3.5 millimeter audio cable, USB Type-C to A for power, the basic little power brick, a little remote, a basic remote, and of course the LP10 itself. Now, as far as other features are concerned, it supports AirPlay 2, Google Cast, Tidal Connect, Spotify Connect. You have touch controls on the top. That's for things like off and on, volume up and down, play and pause, right? So you have those. Now, reportedly, this supports DLNA servers such as Plex. But we're going to talk about that in a little bit. There's a USB input for thumb drives, and there is a optical output that supports up to 24-bit 192 kilohertz. And it has analog out via a 3.5 millimeter output, as well as a analog input, which is also 3.5 millimeters, you know, for maybe connecting another device to it. Ethernet, very nice, which that is lacking on some of the budget streamers. So let's get to the meat and potatoes of this. First off, the most important thing, how does it sound? So I'm going to compare this with the streamers that I have. I use WiiM streamers. I've got minis, I have pros, pros plus, and ultimates. I have all of them. This fits somewhere between the WiiM Mini and a WiiM Pro as far as features and so forth. So like $10 more than a WiiM Mini, but it's roughly 50 bucks less than a WiiM Pro. However, that being said, feature-wise, this has most of the features of the Pro except for the better quality DAC and probably the CPU as well. Now, that's just a guess. Again, I have no idea what the internals of these things are. Also, I did not test this with Bluetooth, but the sound that I got was not as lush sounding as the WiiM Pro. It was more closer to the WiiM Mini. All right. Now, what gear did I test with? All right. Well, to be fair, I decided that I would test this the Fozzy ZD3 DAC from Fozzy Audio, as well as their ZA3 amp. Now, this does have preamp functionality in it as far as adjusting volume, and that's about it. Now, there is also some EQ settings that you can access through this remote. So you need the remote to do this. But the settings, the EQs, there was jazz, classic, classical, rock, pop. I did not hear any real audible difference with those EQ settings at all. So I just did not. As far as speakers are concerned, I use it with the KEF Q150s. Now, I normally use my Plex server and Plex amp in order to test gear. However, try as I might, I could not actually connect to my Plex server with the software that they want you to use with this thing. And that's, I think, going to be the Achilles heel of the LP10. Overall, I thought the overall timbre of the streamer was just a bit on the dark side. It wasn't quite as spacious or warm as, say, the WiiM Pro, but it wasn't terrible either. It still puts out great sound, though. So what I had to do is I had to use Google Cast, mostly from Amazon Music. And what does that get you? Like 24-bit, 48 kilohertz roughly on Google Cast. I think it's even capable of higher, but that's okay. Because I don't do a lot of Google casting, but it did work, and it worked pretty well. Now, as far as the music that I did listen to, well, I have multiple demo tracks, right? I've got some of the usual suspects like Donald Fagen and the Night Fly, and of course, Steely Dan, Asia, many others, Eric Clapton, Unplugged. So these are recordings I'm very, very familiar with. So it gives me a good point of reference. But I also love a band called Giant Sand, and their album Tucson is simply an experience. I'm just going to put it that way. I'm putting it out to you this way. Giant Sand's Tucson is a audio experience that you should listen to at least once in your lifetime. Also, I streamed with Radio Paradise using Google Cast, Radio Paradise, or no, AirPlay, sorry. Anyhow, listen to Beth Orton's, and she's got an album called Passin' Time. Let's just say that is a super amazing recording. Fantastic melodies, amazing vocals, a lot of range, and it's just the kind of music that you can sit down with your favorite beverage and just chill out and relax to. So highly recommend you give that a listen. Now I'd like to share with you some of the things I like and don't like about the LP10. And first, I like having physical remote. That's nice. You don't get that with the WiiM Mini, right? You don't get that with the Pro. You have to get the Pro Plus before you can get a remote. So that's nice. That's good. And it's a basic remote. These things seem to come with just about all this stuff anymore, these basic little remotes. But you do need it for certain functions on there. I like the touch controls on top. I think they look very, very nice. Chromecast is a nice touch, especially if you don't have that ability with the WiiM Mini, but you do have it with the Arylic for just $10 more. Plus, it's got a nice little LED display screen on it, so it's very small, but it's useful. It kind of tells you some basic information about what's playing in the source. And it sounds, I think, very good for the price. Again, sound-wise, I think it's very much on par with the WiiM Mini. Maybe just like I said, a tad bit darker. But I would compare the sound more to the Mini than I would the Pro. Now, what I'd like to do next is talk about some of the things I don't like about the LP10. And the whole setup process was super fiddly because of the app that Arylic uses, which is called Go Control. The setup instructions for Wi-Fi, I did not have the ability to connect this via Ethernet at this time, so I'm depending on Wi-Fi. I have a very good Wi-Fi system, great speed, a nice mesh network, whole 9 yards. It's very stable, but I had a heck of a time until I took additional step. In other words, when I went to set it up, I followed the instructions. However, it would not find it, could not connect to it. And so I actually went to the Wi-Fi settings on my phone and seen where this show popped up once it was powered up as an Arylic speaker. Okay, matter of fact, an Arylic AirPlay speaker. I selected that on the network, and then I was able to complete setting it up in the Go Control app at that point. So that was part of the problem. So it was very, very fiddly for me to get this set up. Now, as far as the Go Control app itself, I got to be honest with you, this thing is just a disaster for me. Things just didn't work. For example, it did see my Plex media server. However, it absolutely would not connect to it. Unlike WiiM, which is like instant, right there it is. A lot of the internet radio stations that they provide in the Go Control app, nothing would happen. All right? Just simply did not work. So that was a problem. Now, as far as the EQ, again, on the built into the LP10, no real noticeable difference in the sound. Now, one last bizarre thing, and I believe Arylic is working on a fix on this. The output, the information that is outputting, for example, if it was a 44.1 CD quality file that I was listening to, would report on the ZD3 as 88.2 kilohertz. I'm like, what? So there's some glitches on there. You know, I genuinely like Arylic products, but I think in this case, it's a swing and a miss. So unless you really need, so if you're comparing, say, getting a WiiM Mini or this, unless you need the Chromecast, I would recommend the WiiM Mini over this. The app is so much better. There's so many more options, just so much better developed. And it's almost like the software with this is pretty much an afterthought. Most of the functions don't seem to work. They did not for me. I was unable to test it connected to Ethernet, but I truly don't believe that would have made any difference whatsoever. And, well, that's pretty much it. I hope Arylic continues to send me products to review because I do like their stuff. This is not a bad deal for the price, but I just, like I said, I think it's a swing and a miss. I cannot really recommend this device for your money. And that's it. Bruce Naylor, welcome to the Desktop HiFi channel. Thanks for seeing me and watching my video. And if you're new here, hit that subscribe button. It means a lot. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.